I hear the creativity, motivation and new environments. Why is that so important for our university to have a deeper insights in these themes?
Yeah, it also, if I can start here, it also relates a lot with the title that Jan also introduced, for an uncertain future. If we look at the future and how we will raise or prepare our students, we simply do not know how the future looks like and how we can prepare our students. And of course we have a basic set of domain skills that we want to give all our students, but it's more than that. You also have certain other non-domain skills like creativity, like motivation, and the future of academia and work that we simply cannot predict. And then the skills that we try to prepare our students for are important in such a way because we don't know how it looks in the future yet.
Okay, so this is needed for every student and probably also for every teacher?
I would say, from my point of view, what is needed is to have a sort of free experimental space where, in fact, together with researchers, teachers and students, we can sit down and think about the vision we have together of what would be the future of academia, and think about different directions where the world is going, but also then where does our education system have to go. So that is more on what I'm working with. And then it is really related to being creative, obviously, because if you're experimenting, if you're coming up with new ideas, with new ways of teaching and learning, then you obviously have to be a very good problem solver. And my research is also very much problem-based and place-based, and it's very much about the experiences or learning from experience. So I think it's important for our university to be able to provide spaces for such research and such innovation.
Yeah, and to add on to that, also related to the common thread, I think as a common concept that really links us is also autonomy. If you look at Liike's research, that's really about intrinsic motivation and as well autonomy, what actually triggers students to learn and to perform to their best. And you really look at that on a really fundamental fMRI level. And then what I see in my research right now is that if we let students work on these open-ended tasks, so they basically, to give an example, one of my research involves at the Radboud UMC. They have this innovation project, and all the first-year students of biomedical science and medicine, they cooperate in this project and they define their own problems, and they work together with teachers on developing innovative solutions to this. So it's a lot of autonomy and freedom for the students. And if you look at Rosie's research, that is even a step further. Yeah, it's even more open. Yes. They even create their own course in a certain way as well. And we see a lot of uncertainty also with these students. At least in my research, what I get here, a lot of back with interviews with teachers, that the students face a lot of uncertainty that they don't like. You know, there's no predetermined solution or method to solve this problem. But uncertainty can also serve as a catalyst for learning and for creativity. So it's this balance that we try to have in all of projects, and to really grasp it, what it means for students and teachers.
And if I could catch up on that, because it seems that the very basic fMRI studies seems quite removed from what you are talking about, but the way in which you are now talking about creativity and focusing on, I don't remember exactly what you said, but I could imagine that this feeds back into the way in which you ask questions about motivation. Because they feel, now I remember, they feel insecure, they want to have better directions, but it might be that that's precisely the kind of key for you to discover what kind of curiosity comes up in such situations. And does this work? Is this in this way that you are feeding back into your fMRI studies?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we talk a lot about our research together, and it's very nice for me because I'm indeed a more fundamental researcher, but I do want to, you know, connect to education and to see how I can link my research to that and to really understand it better on a very fundamental level. And then if I hear these stories from the girls, I'm like, okay, so uncertainty is maybe an important factor. Perhaps students are just stressed if they're faced with uncertainty. I have found in my research, for example, that uncertainty makes us curious, but uncertainty doesn't necessarily make us happy. And now I'm thinking, okay, maybe this uncertainty can also be linked to, I don't know, levels of stress or something, and that triggers maybe learning, but maybe not in the most optimal way, because do we want our students to learn from stress, from this uncertainty, or do we want to create a, you know, space of well-being for them? So I'm definitely inspired by that, yeah.
And
Fascinating.
it's really interesting because you say uncertainty makes you curious, but at the same time it makes you kind of stressed. And that is, on that very open level, that is also what I'm working with, because I take autonomy more as a concept of having ownership over your learning processes. And it's, as you said, it's very much about that, creating that balance of, okay, it is not easy to sit in that uncertainty, but then as facilitators and educators, how can we guide students through those moments of uncertainty and feed their curiosity and feed their intrinsic motivation while keeping that open space and letting them be creative?